to understand that I'm a great aficionado, or shall we say devotee, of Lord Ramachandra. And it struck me to the core that I would never have Prabhupada's insight and teaching from the Transcendental Platform as to the nature and behavior of Lord Ramachandra. So anyhow, you were right and I was wrong, okay?
I'm sorry.
Well, can you forgive me?
Can you forgive me?
Yes.
Haribol.
Oh, Haribol.
Yes.
I am your servant.
Well, I'm not only your servant, I'm your eternal servant.
Krishna.
Yes,
Nice to be here with everybody tonight.
so please always be with us. You're one of us.
Hare
You
Krishna.
cannot be made not one of us.
Hare Krishna.
Jai. Okay.
All right.
Just the four of us tonight?
So far,
Well, who
Prabhu.
knows? It's early on, where people are used to coming in late,
Mhm.
and we're trying to switch it to early.
What
But
time
in
is it?
India,
It's in India.
Early, it's really early. It's like, 8:30 in the morning or something like that.
Mhm.
And as a result, Banu likes to chant all of his rounds first. And because there was some difficulty with the water supply where he lives, near where he lives, he wanted to be able to take his shower. A lot of times in India, the water goes off at certain hours because of difficulties with the water supply.
Wow.
Yes.
And I don't know what the exact particulars are here, but he liked to take a shower first, chant his rounds and all that. So that's the way it goes.
Yes.
So,
Okay. Yeah. So we're here in, where are we? In the material world?
so yeah. Now, Ramachandraji, did
Yes,
you get that? Did you get that page up so we can discuss it at all?
Yes. Let me get that page up. Give me a few seconds, and then we'll discuss.
You probably
Yeah,
didn't have a chance to read it yet.
No, but it's gonna be reading tonight. Right now, we're gonna
Yeah.
cover it.
Yeah, you will be happily surprised.
Yeah, Rupa Manjari Prabhu, I mentioned that document to him, to her, and she remembers that. So,
And I never saw it before, frankly.
huh? You never saw it before? Interesting. Anyway,
I think Narayan, that you and I wrote it together like a long time ago.
Well, I didn't have any editorial stuff because there was.
But we don't
one part
remember. Huh?
Well, it's not that. It's just that there's a part where it describes, what does it describe? It describes slate. And the slate is spelled for a different meaning of the word slate. Slate in this case means S-L-A-T-E, means like a slate that you write on.
Okay, here we go. Can
And
everyone
if we'd
see it?
written it together, I should think I would have seen it. But we did work we worked on it together. There's no question of that. Yes.
Jai. Okay, here's the document.
I think you probably wrote this basically on your own. It sounds more like you than it does like me.
Well, how did Ramachandra, how did you find it?
Oh, this one, someone posted it, and one guy was giving a commentary on the video, and he used this document. So I thought, I'll look at it, and I saw your name and Narayan Vishwakarma Prabhu's name on it. So I was like, wow, something that just came up just recently, just yesterday, no, just today I saw it, this morning. So I thought I shared with Narayan Prabhu and you on the Zoom.
Nice.
That's a wonderful title you gave me. The GBC was the enemy of Srila Prabhupada from 1970 until today.
Mhm.
Hi. Hi, your name, R-O-U-P-A, Manjari Devi Das. Huh? I thought it was R-U-P-A. But anyways.
Yeah, I prefer is spelled the R-U-P-A, but this was a long time ago when we had numerology on our names and the in India, and the guy
Gotcha.
said, if you spell it this way, it'll be better for you. So I, for some time, went with OUPA.
Gotcha. So, should we start reading? It's 17 pages, but we can try to cover as we go along, and then Narayan Prabhu, Rupa Manjari Prabhu, Mahaprabhu, and myself, we can discuss and bring it, down to the point right now. In 1970, there had been some discussion in ISKCON, which
Some
caused
disturbance.
okay, discussion. Yeah, disturbance. Thank you for catching that. In 1970, there had been some disturbance in ISKCON, which caused Srila Prabhupada to send out a letter stating he was retiring from ISKCON management in order to write his books. What is this word?
Segued.
Segued.
Yeah.
What does this mean?
It
Segued.
means like to make a different course of action.
Oh, he segued almost immediately to the meeting in 1970 after Rath Yatra in San Francisco, in which he created the DOM, Direction of Management, on official legal document papers, and signed by 3 witnesses, and named 12 men to be the first round of GBC. Okay. The simple fact is that Srila Prabhupada, becoming more and more embroiled by the so-called managers that he appointed to various posts, or who had climbed into those posts on their own, wished to relieve them of the karmic reactions of bringing such dissatisfaction and fault finding to their spiritual master, who was simply meant to be worshipped and obeyed without question according to ancient Vedic practice. So the GBC was created partly so that they could fight amongst themselves instead of essentially fighting with Srila Prabhupada over various issues instead of his writing books. So why would you say that the fighting amongst themselves? So the GBC was created so they could fight amongst themselves instead of essentially fighting with Srila Prabhupada over various issues instead of his writing books.
Yeah, see, Srila Prabhupada was so burdened with the leading disciples always coming to him for one issue or another. It was very taxing on his time and energy, which he wanted to be used to dedicating to book writing. And so he created the DOM saying, this is the founding document of the GBC, and these are the rules by which the GBC is to operate. Well, they didn't like those rules. Have you read the DOM?
Yes, but we have we have read over a couple of times on our Zoom meetings. Yes, we've covered that. Yes.
So so you can see why they didn't like what the direction of management had to say, and so they just didn't tell anybody that Prabhupada had issued that ultimatum.
Now, Narayan Prabhu, do you want to offer any more insights? Or Mahaprabhu? Mahaprabhu, you can also comment, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Anything that sticks up?
Yeah, the number 12 sort of pops up a lot. Why 12?
Good question. Why 12?
That's just the number that Srila Prabhupada selected for number of men in the GBC. And he said that every 3 years there would be a new election and 8 new seats would be voted in, but 4 would stay on from the previous what's the word?
Appointments?
Yeah, from the previous appointments. So that they could then guide the next 8, how to do things.
Yeah,
How
it's a
does-
wonderful. Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Mahaprabhu.
How, how does it stand today?
There's no they've completely changed everything, and they even have somebody on Wikipedia to keep the entry for ISKCON so that it's their version of reality, not Prabhupada's version.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I know, because I tried to correct it in the Wikipedia page, to try to set the record straight. And every time I would try to edit it, then this guy named Wikidas would change it back to saying that Prabhupada appointed successor gurus. That's not true. That never happened. So
Wow.
they basically lied about everything. And they people that join ISKCON are told they have to take a guru and they have to sign allegiance to the GBC, not allegiance to Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON. Like, it's very long and complicated.
Wow. Mhm.
What were you gonna say? It's a what?
It's a mess, it seems. Right.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
a mess. It is a mess. And ISKCON worldwide is pretty small in terms of numbers. Like, the estimation is maybe 1 to 2 million total.
Wow.
And when you have 8.5 billion people in the world, that's not that many devotees.
That's right. Wow.
So yeah, and it's we're of the opinion it's because of this
Mismanagement,
discrepancy. Yeah,
Yeah.
mismanagement, discrepancy.
Not following the orders of the spiritual master. It's life and soul of it's the life and soul of the disciple, and especially a written legal document, that is very clear and without any doubt, doesn't leave anything out.
Yeah, and the ISKCON DOM website presents this whole topic and explains everything in great detail. So it's unfortunate that we lost that website, because I spent many hours writing things out, quoting, comparing.
Right.
Like, for example, also Srila Prabhupada wrote like 5 different letters where he mentions the direction of management by name.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
So there's no home base at this point?
What do you mean, Mahaprabhu?
There's
Home
no
base?
home base. There's no core. There's nobody really leading the movement at this point.
well, the GBC that calls themselves the GBC or are actually also gurus, self-appointed, and
Right.
and they run it, and they and they each have millions and millions of dollars that their disciples have given them, like money that
Wow.
should have been used for preaching purposes and for printing books and for maintaining temples and opening new temples. But instead that money's gone into their pockets. Like, for example, Radhanath Swami, I met him in 2008 in his temple in Mumbai, India. And somebody told me that he had $85 million at that point. And this was back in 2008.
Wow.
So sure, he's over 100 by now.
Yeah. And, I mean, there's many complaints about so-called Kanishta initiators usurping Srila Prabhupada's Lakshmi or Krishna's Lakshmi and putting it in the private bank accounts. And there is GBC resolutions where it's saying every ISKCON Swami should have, transparency whenever they go to ISKCON property or the disciples' places or the temples. They should have transparency and they should submit paperwork, how much money they have, how much they collected. But no one actually follows this. Maybe Jay Advaita Swami and a couple of people, they follow it, but I doubt, if anything, if they're being audited and things like that. But that just goes to show that everything is kind of swept under the rug, even though they have resolutions stating that they should follow all this, but they themselves don't follow.
Are they here in the States?
Yes,
Uh-huh.
States,
They're all
India.
over the world. They're
Yeah,
all over the
All,
world.
States,
all
India.
over.
Yeah.
You know, they did the opposite of what Prabhupada wanted, which was that each temple would be local, incorporated individually, and that they would not have an international corporation. But the devotees in charge thought, as Americans, they knew better how to run a corporation, and that Prabhupada's idea wouldn't work as well. So they centralized it, and the net result is they've been hit by many lawsuits where the entire society was dragged to courts instead of just an individual temple. Anyhow, let's keep on going.
Okay, let me just share the screen once more. Mahaprabhu, maybe you can read this, Prabhu, this part here. Is it okay if you can read this part?
Sure. Direct me. Right. Where are we here?
Right here, Prabhu, this whole paragraph.
Uh-huh. The GBC hid their founding document, the direction of management, from the temple presidents. My husband, Nayanarayan Das Vishwakarma, happened to be in New Vrindavan for the first GBC meeting in 1971. The GBC meetings were later transferred to their present location, which is in Mayapur, West Bengal, during the spring. The president of the first GBC meeting was excited by the existence of the DOM. And because my husband had an education in literature and legal matters, was excited to show the DOM to my husband. His eyes were twinkling, and he said, "I'm not supposed to show you this document. It is a top secret document and only meant for the eyes of the GBC to see." My husband quickly glanced through it. He was not allowed more than a glance, and he noticed that Srila Prabhupada had arranged for the GBC to be elected from a slate of temple presidents, and that they were to serve only 3-year terms, at which point they would return to their temples to continue their duties. The meeting between the GBC president and my husband was hurried, but my husband was left with a very uneasy feeling. If the temple presidents were to be elected by GBC from amongst themselves, then why were they not allowed to see the DOM or know of its existence?
Hare
Wow.
Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. That's right. If the temple presidents were to elect the GBC from amongst themselves, then why were they not allowed to see the DOM or know of its existence?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they
Why?
basically covered up everything. It's like you think you know what's going on in ISKCON because that's what you're being told. But what if what you're being told is not the truth? What if that's just a lie and you think it's the truth because of the rank and file system that was prevalent in ISKCON?
Right.
Yeah. I think Rupa Manjari Prabhu, when you were preaching, did a lot of people know about the direction of management? You mean the rank and file people in Los Angeles and wherever else you guys traveled?
No, most did not know. And those, oh, and by the way, Narayan and I became well known for talking about the direction of management and how it wasn't followed and how nobody knew about it from its inception. And the GBC actually issued a statement to counteract what we were saying called, and Narayan's last name is Zakheim, called Error of Zakheimism.
Oh, wow.
And it was written It was written by what's his name?
Ravinder Swarup.
Yeah, Rabindra Swarup. How did you know that?
Ah, Krishna told me.
Wow.
Krishna told you. That's so funny. Yeah, you got it right on the money. It was Rabindra Swarup, and he basically.
I was thinking of all the names, but this name came to me.
That is so funny. That's really cool. Yeah.
Hare
Yeah, it was
Krishna.
him. Maybe you can try and find it called Error of Zachaimism.
Narayan Prabhu is very famous.
Yeah.
Are these individuals still alive?
Yes.
Yeah, they're still functioning in the Catholic Church as managers and gurus and
Oh, wow.
whatever you want to call them.
Now, Ravinder Swarup used to be their intellectual top guy. Anytime they had a question that nobody could answer, they gave it to Ravinder Swarup because he's very intelligent, intellectual guy.
But not intelligent enough, though.
No, not intelligent enough. He was like a
He's crooked.
intellectual.
He's crooked.
Yeah.
Not intelligent.
Well, of course. But I mean, it's like a lawyer. When you pick a lawyer to defend a mafioso, you don't want a lawyer that's extremely honest. You just want one that will win your case.
Mhm.
There's
If the mafioso, if the lawyer goes into the court saying, I can't represent this client, he's guilty as hell, then what sort of lawyer would he be, So he was their point man to state things. Anyhow, this is all, this is what I did. Rupa Manjari did. I did.
Well, it's coming back now.
Back in the day.
Yeah. I said everything is coming back now. That's great. It's being revived.
Yes, that's sort of amazing. It just seemed to me that, we had lost our space,
Nothing is lost. Narayan Prabhu.
No,
You know that.
we're eternal. Oh, that's another good thing about ISKCON on the League for 10K is that anything we say that is absolutely true from our heart, even if we're not knowledgeable, but is true according to Shastra, even if we just say it because it seems true to be true, because Shastra is reasonable. There's nothing in Shastra like Bibles and whatnot where you have to go around in circles to get anywhere. And something's in Shastra and it's true, it's manifestedly true, whether or not you know the Shastra or not. If you say something is true, it is Shastra. So that creates a wonderful opportunity for people to express themselves with confidence in ISKCON, not everywhere, in ISKCON. Anyhow, go ahead.
The meaning of Shastra.
Narayan Prabhu, meaning of Shastra.
What?
Shastra is scripture.
Okay, got it.
Vedic scripture.
All right. So we're on the third paragraph.
One second.
Yes,
I remember what I started to explain is that the religions, like the Abrahamic religions, which are the ones we know best, are convoluted with things that you have to accept whether they make sense or not. In other words, I think even in the Catholic Church, the word dogma comes in. You can't question it. So, so in Krishna consciousness, there is no dogma. There's nothing you have to believe. You don't have to believe any of it. You believe it if it strikes you as being true. So if it strikes you as being true, that's what makes you a disciple. And that's what ultimately makes you a teacher, because you've accepted
that's
that
a very
which
good point. If it strikes to you as true.
Right.
Then you
it's
become
true
a
to you.
disciple. Yes.
So that's the difference.
So nothing is forced upon us.
Yes.
No, nothing.
Exactly.
And we're eternal. And that's what led me into a comment. Is that just look, I thought it was sort of dead and buried in a sense. But look at that, it's coming up fresh as a daisy because it is eternal. And it's coming up in this, that's what you mentioned, it's coming up in this meeting. You know?
Yeah.
So there was no law. Prabhupada says, in the matter of Krishna consciousness, there's no loss or diminution. It's the same platform. And when we come to the eternal platform, we'll find that everything spiritual is available and there. Whereas on the material platform, things come and things go, right?
That's right.
Okay. So anyhow, keep going.
Okay. All right. Where were we? Okay. Yes.
Narayan was snarled at.
Okay.
What is,
All right.
Yeah, that
Okay.
was Jayatirtha. Jayatirtha that said to him, "It's locked in a safe, and you'll never get to see it."
Wow.
Oh. Jay Tirtha, the wonderful
Who
guy that
gave him
got his
that?
head chopped off.
Who gave him that authority?
the one that was beheaded.
Wow.
Yes.
But from 1973 onward, he really liked me. And so we would always get 2-bedroom apartments at the temple. He and his wife would stay in one apartment, and myself and my first wife would stay in the other bedroom.
Okay, so let's continue. At every opportunity, my husband would ask GBC men if he could have another look at the DOM, Direction of Management document. And in 1975, one of those GBC snarled at my husband and said, quote, "It is locked in a safe and you will never have a chance to see it." Unquote.
That's pretty strong. Pretty strong.
This is Jay Tirtha saying it, Narayan Prabhu? Yes, I think you
Yes.
said that, right? Okay. 1975, okay. The document was basically unknown and unread, what to speak of obeyed, until 1992, when my husband found it online in the database. No one knew what it was or if it had any significance in particular, but when my husband found it, it seemed to him like accidentally discovering a diamond mine. From that day onward, he propagated awareness of the direction of management to the point that it has now, in 2012, become known and read by practically everyone in the Krishna consciousness movement. Wow.
Hare Krishna.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
What's going on?
And this
Narayan
all
is
came about,
persistent.
it all came about by my good fortune in having Rupanuga Prabhu, who was the head of the first president of the GBC, that he showed me the document. And the other GBCs were scowling at him and me because they didn't want me to see it. But he thought I would appreciate it, which without question I did. But of course I had the big question. It is brought up in this paper. If everyone's supposed to vote for the GBC, why are they keeping it secret?
The temple presidents were going to be the next, 8 GBC men. Yes, right.
Yeah, so the first election should have taken place probably in 1973 or maybe 1974, and
Yes.
then also 1976. But every time an election was due, they came up with some alternative that Prabhupada actually dissolved the GBC because they had a meeting and they didn't. Prabhupada's supposed to be at every GBC meeting, And they had a meeting secretly without inviting Prabhupada at all. So to give you an idea of the conspiracy level going on here, it's pretty transparent. The reason why Jayatirtha was so confident it's locked in a
Right.
safe and you'll never get to see it, and because they knew they had close to absolute control over all the devotees. So if one person said something, all they needed to say was like what Ravindra Swarup said, the Zakaimism, you know, and if he writes that, that sort of thing's going on in the politics of the United States right now. Open lying is going on, you know, open lies, and yet how can you stop it when the lies are coming from the newscasters and politicians? It doesn't matter if they lie to them, because once they've lied, a lot of people will believe.
Yeah,
Anyhow,
the lie has been coming down in a disciplic succession, so-called. It's a joke, so don't take it out of context. Okay, so let's continue our reading.
I'm sorry, GBC. That's an acronym for what?
Governing Board Commission or Governing Body Commission, meaning the managers of the religious movement ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness.
Thank you.
The word GBC came from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who wanted Gaudiya Math run with a GBC. And his disciples said, well, where did you get this? Because, you know, their relationship with, he's the absolute guru and they're the disciples. So where do you get this management thing? And he said, I took it from the British Indian railway system rules. They had a governing body commission, and Bhaktisiddhanta wanted one by that name. They refused to create it, and as a result, the Gaudiya Math fell apart. Prabhupada wanted to prevent the ISKCON from falling apart, so he introduced it. At least they got to the point of signing a document. So go ahead.
The GBC was created what year?
1970.
70s.
By the direction of management document. That's the whole point, is that their very founding document they suppressed and ignored and rejected. And then they told the rank and file, you know, just your regular old devotees, oh, Prabhupada made us gurus.
Wow.
Well, that was 7 years later. But that's what they had in mind at that time.
So anyone who's watching this online on Facebook and on Zoom, we'd like to invite you to come participate live on Zoom. You can do that just by sending me a message on Facebook or a message on YouTube, and then you can get the link to come participate. This is an Ishtagoshti where you can express your doubt about the document, but be prepared to be, you know, grilled from all sides.
Hare Krishna.
And remember, it's called Zakaimism.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's right.
It's called error of Zakaimism.
Yeah.
I'm sure Ravindra Swarup is watching us. Or his chelas are watching it. Chelas means, you know, his minions
His minions.
in Hindi or in Sanskrit. So let's continue our wonderful.
Well, you know, with Ravindra Swarup, he got dragged in front of the ethics committee because he kicked one of his female disciples in the bottom with his foot. And they dragged him through the coals. But the final judgment was that he was
not guilty.
well, basically, no, he was guilty, but he was admonished for having done that. And the thing he was guilty of was what they described as, the ISKCON court described as Human Rights Division of the ISKCON, if
Hmm.
there was an oxymoron, there it is an inadvertent foot gesture.
Wow, that's my defense. Great. Inadvertent foot gesture. I can use that defense to kick down someone's door and be like, oops.
right. Was
It's
inadvertent.
an inadvertent foot gesture.
Right, Krishna is revealed to me. Inadvertent. Wow.
So let's keep on going.
And the judge pardoned him, huh? Who was the judge?
Well, it was an ISKCON board. They have a board of sort of human rights. They had to install something for human rights violations, particularly after the Gurukula situation.
Yes. Wow.
They had to create a human rights board, and this is how they handled it after about a year of trial and deliberation.
So they have their own hodgepodge system of management and PR and police, ISKCON police. They have ISKCON police also? FBI? CIA?
I don't know. But
I'm sure they do. We just don't know about it.
well, they have the equivalent there. I mean, whatever they want to do, they have the power to do it. And in Mayapur, they have thugs who do things for them.
Krishna.
They have who? Narayan?
Thugs. Thugs.
Got it.
Actually, thugs were the people that killed Saint Thomas, Doubting Thomas in South India. He went and he was doubting away as usual at the temple of Durga or Kali, and they're protected by a bodyguard. They're known as Thuggies, and the Thuggies killed him.
Wow.
Apparently, his body never decayed, but anyhow, that's what I've heard. And so the Thuggies killed him, and that's where we get the word thug.
Little mafia going on there.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's not a little mafia, it's a big mafia.
That's a big one. That's right.
I mean,
Yeah,
in
it's a big mafia.
yeah, in the headquarters, Mayapur World Headquarters, hundreds of people have died. They've committed suicide. They've jumped off buildings. They've been found hanging from,
In their guest house rooms.
yeah. So
Wow, I didn't know that.
yeah, so it's a lot of infighting among the gurus and the disciples. I've heard about different guru cults in ISKCON, Radhanath, Jayapataka, these personalities fighting over territory, who's going to take over when Jayapataka dies. Some people are saying this Swami will take over that Swami. So they're always in competition amongst each other to control, manipulate.
Going on today.
They've killed a number of people.
Yeah. They kill their own people, actually.
No, they killed Tamal and they killed Gaur Govinda.
Yeah.
And they killed Ayendra Das.
Yeah, that also.
Yeah, but not in Mayapur.
Yeah, he was in Vrindavan. They blew him up.
Yeah. If you like, you can put my video back on.
Okay, let's do it. You set up already? Okay.
I am.
Okay, Jai. Okay. Now you have video. Now you have to approve it. There you go.
Jai.
Hare
hello.
Krishna.
Jai, Haribol.
Okay.
Okay, I'm on.
Okay, Jai. Now time for some fun. Okay, let's continue reading that document.
I like your picture, your photograph there. There's Karandar, there's other devotees.
I didn't read
And
that.
Prabhupada looks spectacular.
Oh, that's you too, huh? You're there
But
too.
Who's that creepy guy in the brown kurta?
That's you. I didn't know that was.
That's the only blemish.
Is
Yeah.
that really Narayan?
Yeah, this is him. You can see? Right
Off to the right?
Above
Yeah.
the children?
Yeah.
Wearing
Okay.
a khadi vest.
Yeah, this brown one. This brown shirt, whatever you want to call
I've
it.
never seen that photo before.
Ah,
Neither, nor have I.
Wow.
right. Who's the African American Vaishnava devotee right next to Karandar Prabhu?
I'm trying to figure that out.
Oh. Right there, that seems like Satsarup, right next to you, Narayan Prabhu. And the guy with the danda,
Yeah,
is
it
that,
looks like Satsu. His nose, yes.
and the guy with the danda, it's Vidayananda Swami, HDG, His Divine Grace.
Could be.
HDG.
His divine disgrace? Yes, yes.
His Divine Grace, Krishna. He's apparently the guru of Bir Krishna too, I think.
Could be.
Okay,
But,
let's continue our.
I have many anecdotes of Sri Dayananda. He practically, in one sense, worships me because he says I'm his Vartana Pradarksha Guru, which is true.
Mhm.
But I've never really experienced a good experience with him. I don't know who the African American devotee is. He's familiar.
All right, never mind, it'll come to you.
Probably not.
Okay. Let me get the document back on and then we'll continue. Okay.
Yeah, let's continue. This is a nice, a very jolly meeting. I like it.
Hare Krishna. Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Okay. Anyone watching this, they can participate live on our Zoom or on our Facebook or on our Facebook, Zoom, and YouTube. So please join us if you want some entertainment. Okay, let's see. All right, so let's continue, Prabhus. Narayan Prabhu, why don't you read? Or
Well, I'd like to hear Rupa read because she wrote it, you know.
okay, sure. If she wants to read, go ahead.
Sure.
Rupa Maharaj Prabhu.
The problem is no one knows what to do. 4 years after Srila Prabhupada brought the DOM into existence as the ISKCON constitution, the temple president still had not seen a copy, nor realized that they had the power to vote for the GBC. That is when Srila Prabhupada wrote his probably most important letter marked topmost urgency pertaining to his desired structure for the Krishna consciousness movement. In that letter, Srila Prabhupada clearly marked with quote unquote topmost urgency that the DOM be installed in the government filing papers of every ISKCON chapter as the only constitution of ISKCON. The GBC that Srila Prabhupada created flatly refused to accept the direction of management, and no one at that time knew about this because no one had yet seen the document. In 1977, when Srila Prabhupada entered his samadhi, the GBC announced that they had inherited absolute power from Srila Prabhupada, and that from now on, strict and absolute obedience to the GBC would be required as a condition for membership in ISKCON or even living in a temple. No one in any of the temples knew about the DOM. At the same time that the GBC declared their absolute authority, the 11 Ritviks named in the July 9th letter and selected by Srila Prabhupada from the most dangerous and most likely to destroy ISKCON and the whole movement, declared themselves to be the pure devotee successor gurus to Srila Prabhupada and announced that they were on the same level of spiritual realization as Srila Prabhupada. In 1978, just before the GBC meeting in Sriram, Mayapur, the Ritvik gurus went to Srila Prabhupada's Iffy godbrother Sridhar, who had a small ashram in Navadvip. They boldly sat with Sridhar Maharaj and announced to him that not only had Srila Prabhupada made them Ritviks in his lifetime, but that his actual intent was that they would become genuine successor gurus to him after he was gone. Sridhar Maharaj was totally bewildered by their statement, as he was certain that their Ritvik status was supposed to remain and continue with future initiations, in the ISKCON movement. Persistently, the Ritviks / would-be successor acharyas gradually convinced him that Srila Prabhupada had indeed given them that mandate of succession. Sridhar Maharaj had already been instrumental in the destruction of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's clear directions for the Gaudiya Math after he was gone, to be run by a governing body commission known as GBC. Sridhar conspired with other leading Math managers at that time and actually elected a ridiculously unqualified man to be quote-unquote acharya. This unauthorized acharya later on committed suicide when he realized that he was to be exposed as a complete homosexual fraud.
Wow.
So
Okay.
now, okay.
So I mean, that's very powerful, that everything we have read so far. Let's see. I have some questions. So can I ask?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah.
By the way, before you ask, let me just interject one little comment.
Yes. Yes. Go ahead.
That letter that is referred to there is at the end. The direction of management is in the same document here, and the letter is also in the same document. So you can, at the end of reading this, we can switch past the direction of management itself and go to the July, whatever.
Oh, there we go.
Well, there's Narayan, there's direction of management, then there's topmost urgent, and not, okay. DOM
Yeah,
direction
topmost-
management was 1970, and then
Yeah.
topmost urgency letter, which restated and reordered the direction of management
1974.
was 1974, and then the
It
July
does,
9th letter, July 9th letter was 1977.
Exactly. Great. So anyhow, so I'll go, but do what you were going to do, Ramachandra. But we don't
No,
need to
I'm
look
just
for it
showing
yet.
the devotees online that it's included here, so they can get this document online. So,
Okay.
and this is the letter right here, right? The
This is
topmost
the
urgency.
follow-up, the topmost urgency.
Wow, everything's here. Did you guys ever distribute this, like in a book or?
Yeah, we had a website. We had a website called ISKCON-DOM.com, ISKCON-DOM.com. And unfortunately, that website is gone now. But this looks to me like it was probably from that website.
Acha.
So we should do a search for how many people downloaded pages from the website. Maybe we can use it to reassemble the website to some degree.
Right.
It's an extraordinarily good website, I might say.
Oh, okay. So here it's saying in 1977, absolute. Okay.
You were about to say something and I interjected, so go ahead from
Yeah.
there.
So here, in the document, it's saying in 1977, when Srila Prabhupada entered his samadhi, the GBC announced that they had inherited absolute power from Srila Prabhupada, and from now on, strict and absolute obedience to the GBC would be required as a condition for membership in ISKCON or even living in the temple. No one in any of the temples knew about the direction of management. So this is, so they have continued this all the way from 1977 till 2021 now, because they make you sign documents like I pledge allegiance to ISKCON and
To the GBC, to the
and
GBC specifically.
to the GBC as the ultimate authority.
Yes.
If any problems arise, if my child is molested in ISKCON, I will not go to the police or the FBI or the CIA or whatever, local authorities. I will try to work it out within the institution. So they have a systematic control over every aspect of the movement. At least it seems like it. You know, they don't control us.
Yeah, they have
Well,
and require
Go ahead.
sorry. They require absolute control because they're corrupt, you know, so they make it so that that they have absolute control. And to become an initiated disciple, you have to sign like a stack of documents, like a thick stack of documents, saying that GBC is the ultimate ecclesiastical authority of ISKCON.
Wow.
But the one thing they cannot control is what we can not control, but liberate. And that is the fact that each jiva is an independent philosopher and doesn't need to be under the GBC to go back to Godhead. You see, we are giving people the keys to their handcuffs. And we're encouraging them to open their handcuffs and massage their wrists so they get some blood back into them.
Very well said.
I think what we've been doing, it's been having a huge impact, Prabhu. A lot of people are talking about what we're doing and what we're discussing. And a lot of people are, I mean, look at this document. It just came up. You know, if we probably hadn't started these Zoom meetings, you know, some months ago, we probably would just still be somewhere. But now people are watching, people are seeing, and people are asking questions. So we're on the right track, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, but we will never become political. We'll never be us against them or them against us.
Right.
Why? Because it's not the nature of the soul to be against anyone. He is self-expressed as an individual. And because the soul is an individual, self-expressed individual, he doesn't require to be part of a group or part of the family or part of anything. In that grihastha ashram, yeah, the husband is there, the wife is there, the children are there. That's a hierarchical thing by which the children and the wife and the husband all make dharmic progression until vanaprastha and then sannyas. Yes. But that is a different thing. What we're talking about is the nature of the soul, because the children have our souls. The wife is a soul. The husband is a soul. And there is no clash there with anybody. So if somebody wants you to sign a stack of papers, you can say it makes no difference if I sign or do not sign, because I am an independent philosopher. And you can't change that because you have no control over Krishna or over the soul. You only have control over an incorporated organization that has created this nightmare for you.
Nightmare for you.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, it's, I mean, the nightmare keeps getting worse and worse. I mean, come on, you know, I thought they would stop the nightmares by, you know, loosening things up and going back to.
Don't worry about it. It's actually getting better and better because they're running on E on their gas tank.
Running on E.
So if you're having a if you see on TV, sometimes there's a high-speed chase with police and some fugitive, and it goes on, and the helicopters or whatever keep track of it for hours at a time. Okay, so we've been waiting years and decades at a time, but their tank is now getting close to E, and we have the fuel.
God.
So it doesn't matter what they think or what they do or what they legislate. They can only legislate over people that are willing to be slaves. And nobody joined Krishna consciousness to become a slave, unless they thought they came and signed those papers that it guarantees that they will go back to Godhead. Well, if we disabuse them of that, saying, excuse me, sir, you're an independent philosopher, you don't need to sign that paper, but if you sign it, you don't have to pay attention to it because you are independent of them who wrote the paper. And you're independent of every other jiva in existence because you are authentically part and parcel of Lord Krishna.
God.
Okay, let's keep on going.
So
All
what
right.
questions did you have, Ramachandra?
Yes, Prabhu. 1 second. Let me load up the document, then I'll ask. Let's see. Okay. Direction of management. All right. So I asked a question about that.
I'm sorry, I thought I was just interjecting one little comment about
It's okay. It goes along. We'll have numerous discussions in 19.
the
Okay.
1974 letter. but
Yeah.
it turned into a whole thing. So go ahead.
Okay, so this meeting with Sridham Maharaj in 1978, it's recorded and archived. I saw the conversation. Jayapataka was there, Bhakti Charu was there, Tamal Krishna was there, Jayadvaita Swami was there. All this, I think Rameshwara Rameshwara was not there, but several of the big shots, they were there questioning Sridhar Maharaj, and it's recorded on audio. So if anyone wants it, I have it and I can send it to you. It's pretty interesting.
Was Bhagavan there and Satsvarup was there, right?
Yes,
Satsvarup was certainly there.
yeah, I think they were there, but it's there, it's recorded. So if anyone wants it, they can send me a message and I'll send it to you.
Great.
Okay.
I have it as it was transcribed.
Yes, they have that and the audio. Yes. Let's see. So this appointment and control by the GBC, this was hidden from the public, and then how did they impress upon the devotees that the GBC was the sole authority? Were the devotees that gullible? Or
Well, if you want to call it that, why not call it that? But there's another thing, trusting. And what did they trust? They trusted that if Prabhupada called them GBC, which he did, then he must have made them GBC. What Prabhupada did not point out to the rank and file devotees is that these guys are pretending to be unelectable. But remember, there were 3 or 4 years before the first election would take place. So there was a big, and back then, 3 years was like 20 years in today's time. And they moved along. So by the time it was time for the GBC election, that's when Prabhupada gave that fantastic letter to Karandar.
oh yes, that powerful letter. Yes, 1972.
Yeah, well, he was addressing the fact that it was tactfully that they had not accepted the GBC, the direction of management.
Yes, that's a very long letter too. That letter,
Yeah.
around, I think 3 or 4 pages. Prabhupada is hammering him. You know.
Yeah.
Forget this centralizing and bureaucracy, he said.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's a very powerful letter. Try.
So,
Yeah, the letter to
so the-
Karandar is practically as important as the direction of management, because it restates what the direction of management is saying, in just, basic instructions. This is how I want things to be operated within ISKCON.
Yes. And he never said, you guys are disobedient, because if he did, that would be a double-edged sword. Whenever, look at that, 12 men signed on as GBC, 3 men witnessed it. It's on a legal document created by their spiritual master. If you don't follow it, that means you cease to be a actual initiated disciple.
Yes.
So Prabhupada allowed that to go past because he knew they wouldn't accept it. So why did he do it? So that it can be accepted in the future, like now or soon. But that document, if you disobey that document, technically you cease to be a disciple. So whoever signed that and didn't obey it, they were no longer his initiated disciples. But he overlooked that. The spiritual master can overlook offenses, meaning small ones. This was a mad elephant offense, but he overlooked that one also. Why? Because he knew that if they continued to do their sinful or egomaniacal, demoniac takeover of ISKCON, that ISKCON would survive. And the proof in the pudding is not whether he was right or wrong to do it. In the purely theological sense, another Vaishnava could say he is wrong. He should have run, in spite of losing his whole movement, he should have denounced those disciples as being wrong and no longer disciples. That was basically his duty. How do I know? Because there was a paper written, I think, by Thakur Bhaktivinoda, I forget, but where it describes that if a Vaishnava who is a guru accepts a disciple who falls down, he has to go to his godbrothers weeping, offers prostrations in the dust, begging them for forgiveness. Prabhupada had hundreds of disciples that fell down.
Hmm.
So you can say, okay, he disobeyed the Vaishnava Sampradaya. But there's one little detail that people don't altogether know yet. And
Because-
we're making it possible.
Yeah,
What?
I know. They were disobedient from the starting, so they were not disciples.
Yeah, they were. But what gave Prabhupada the power to do stuff like that? Make women Brahmins.
Because he was a contrarian.
Yes, he was a contrarian. And where did he get contrarian from?
Bhaktisiddhanta
Is
Saraswati.
from, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and where did Bhaktisiddhanta get contrarian from?
From
the
his
latrine.
guru.
From the latrine.
Yeah, from the latrine. Gorkishore Das Babaji.
Yeah, Gorkishore Das Babaji was such a contrarian that when people, I've said this before, but I'll say it for this recording, that when he was invited to come to some prosperous Bengali businessmen, Vaishnava businessmen home as a honored guest, they expected him to show up in rags and unbathed and looking wild-eyed and all that. So they invited him to come, and he accepted the invitation, not expecting that he was a contrarian. He became a contrarian to being a contrarian. He came dressed impeccably in rich silk clothes with a wool chador and beautiful japa beads, sandals, everything looking as at least as elegant as any of them that invited him. So there he was. That's contrarian. Contrarian is when you expect him to be contrarian. He is contrarian by not being contrarian. Isn't that
It's like a
brilliant?
double negative.
Exactly. But contrarian is quite capable of double negatives,
Mhm.
triple negatives.
Right.
So anyhow, let's continue. But I just wanted to point out that Srila Prabhupada, I'm going to finish that point. When Srila Prabhupada created the GBC and they refused to follow the order, they were ceased to be disciples. But Prabhupada treated them. He called them GBC. He treated them as disciples. I imagine they thought, well, Prabhupada, we've cornered Prabhupada and he gave up or he caved in or he changed his mind or, there's a lot of things they could have thought other than why didn't Prabhupada take us behind the woodshed and whoop us with a stick, Why? Because he wanted the movement to succeed. He even knew and encouraged them to become initiating gurus pretending to be acharyas. How did he do that? He sent them to the one person in the world who could assure them that they were acharyas, and he's the person that created a bogus acharya for the Gaudiya Math named Anantasesha. So Prabhupada sent them, like Aghasura, he sent them into the mouth of the Aghasura demon. Not real. And they thought, oh, goody, Prabhupada is going to get our approval from Sridhar. And Sridhar didn't accept them as gurus. He said they weren't, but they badgered him into it, which lets you know how high up on the spiritual totem pole he was. If a bunch of yokels from the East Coast of the United States can badger a pure devotee into accepting that they're pure devotees, then that person they're badgering could not be a pure devotee, but is just a person playing the role of whatever, Anyhow, that's all I have to say.
Okay, let's go back to the document. 1 second.
Let's go.
Okay.
It's sort of important to bring these things up, I think, as we go along, because whoever's listening, and if it's on recording, it will explain a lot of things they wouldn't get otherwise.
Yes, I agree. Your hands-on experience and your historical insights cannot be replaced. No, Prabhu, because you were there in the moment. So this is a
And so was Paramatma.
yes. So it's from Atma. Yes, Chai.
And I have nobody, but Paramatma is forcing me to remember.
Yeah, Chai.
So that's good, right? What's the bad part? Thank
No
you,
bad
my
part.
dear.
Everything's good.
Yes,
Okay.
and it will become very good when Paramatma activates the hearts of those that are initiated by the Kanista initiators, and they begin to say, wait, Jeev Jago, Gaura Chandabole, let's wake up, Lavian, let's wake up. We've signed all that stack of paper to turn ourselves into slaves. Jeev Jago, wake up. That's joined with the League for 10,000 years.
Chai.
Go ahead.
So here,
Keep going.
saying they went to Sridhar Maharaj, and Sridhar Maharaj was totally bewildered by their statement. Sridhar Maharaj was a very experienced and what can you say, person. He was a guru himself, a successor. Would you consider
you
Sridhar
reading?
Maharaj a successor? Well, he was not a successor, but he was pretending to be a successor himself, right?
Wait, are you reading or are you saying?
No, I'm saying, I'm asking a question
okay.
actually. Was Sridhar
Okay,
Maharaj
ask the question.
pretending to be a successor of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, just like these 12 Ritviks?
Well, he made it clear that he wasn't interested in being a guru. He made it clear that what he really wanted to do was to be like a jnani, to simply read books and stuff like that. But people came to him and he gave initiation to a few, half a dozen or so people, but he wasn't into it at all. In 1974, when we were there in Mayapur, he had just got some crummy, creepy types that were there in his ashram. Not that he had no movement. He claimed that ISKCON was his movement.
Narayan, when did Sridhar Maharaj pass away? Do you know?
No.
Probably 1980 something. I think 85 or 80 something.
Something like that. Because a lot of people, when they found out that the ISKCON gurus were putting a hold on awarding sannyas, because they didn't want any more sannyasis, they wanted to be the only sannyasis. The way Prabhupada was the only sannyasi until he initiated Kirtananda and then initiated the four Prabhupada's God dudes, Prabhupada Gargamuni, Vaishnajan, and Subal. Yeah, that they wanted to keep it like that. So at that time, they began to break with the ISKCON gurus because they saw that although they had a carte blanche to go ahead with Srila Prabhupada and do whatever they damn pleased within reason, that was not going to happen with these initiating gurus, these 11 gurus. So they went to Sridhar to get sannyas. And that's when a big bunch of ISKCON people went over and began to do with Sridhar what later they did with Narayan Maharaj, which is to bring all of their intelligence and expertise into Sridhar's ashram. But they didn't do it very much. Sridhar was not at all a candidate like Narayan Maharaj. He wasn't a candidate for being a big shot. So go ahead.
So Sridhar was actually more honest than most of these ISKCON successors.
No, he was deluded. He made Anantasesha, he lobbied and succeeded in getting Anantasesha named as an acharya. He didn't go for the direction of management for giving him up. He went for something that the Bhaktisiddhanta clearly didn't want. So you can't really say, I will never say anything good about Sridhar because when we went there and he pretended for the newspapers when 1974, when I was there, 74 or 75 maybe, when I was there, He invited all of Prabhupada's disciples to come to take prasadam at his ashram, and we all went. And like the kids, the cowherd boys going into the mouth of Aghasura, we didn't notice that Srila Prabhupada wasn't there, just as the cowherd boys going to the mouth of Aghasura didn't know that Krishna hadn't also gone in. They just faithfully thought that he had. So we went there, went to the whole program, and then the next day, the something Patrika, the newspaper of
Navadweep.
What?
Navadweep, right?
No, not Navadweep. It's the one to the east on the Bangladesh border.
Dhaka.
No, that's inside of Bangladesh. See, I forgot the name. Sorry. It'll make me come back. Anyhow, it was right on the border of Bangladesh, which was right in the mood of getting started. I was there during the revolution. I had to paint my hands dark and or chadar over my head because the Mayapur Island was inside the DMZ, demilitarized zone, and if I had been caught, I would have been put in jail. But I had duties to perform on Mayapur, so I snuck in, paying quite a lot to get across the river. What's the name of the town? Krishnagar.
Krishnagar. Yes.
Yeah. So the Krishnagar paper published a whole lecture in Bengali spoken by Gorkrishna, what's his name? Sridhar Maharaj, saying that these were his disciples that came from America to worship him. Didn't mention Prabhupada at all. He made it sound, and he'd always been saying that because he considered himself Prabhupada's sort of some sort of guru, Shiksha guru or something, that all Prabhupada's disciples were really his disciples, and that Prabhupada should acknowledge them. Well, it was ridiculous, and Prabhupada didn't acknowledge it. He had treated Sridhar very kindly when Sridhar was visiting him as a householder. Prabhupada was a householder. Sridhar would stay there and organize little gatherings and festivals and pujas. So he took on the role of like the house Brahmin of Srila Prabhupada's house. But he went to his head and he thought of himself as Prabhupada's guru, even though Prabhupada was initiated by his guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Anyhow, so he pushed that point, and then when Prabhupada was sitting in the Vyasasan in Mayapur, in a nice, beautiful, he had a terrible looking pandal, and the food that he offered, prasadam, if you will call it that, was unedible. Potatoes that turned black from being cooked in a iron pan. You know, if you have the wrong sort of iron pan. And it was done by Shudra cooks. Anyhow, we didn't get sick, unfortunately, but and Prabhupada the next day was handed the Krishnagar newspaper where Sridhar took complete credit for everything. This is 1975. Prabhupada declared, there's 74, 75, Prabhupada declared that we should never, ever go to see Sridhar ever again. So any idea that Sridhar had some good qualities as a guru, I do not accept that because Prabhupada said never to see him again, and I didn't.
All right.
And people did go after Prabhupada entered Samadhi because they wanted sannyas and they couldn't get it anywhere else.
Oh, yeah, that Tripurari Swami. I think he wanted to be a Swami and a guru like the so-called Ritviks, and he was denied. So he went to Sridhar Maharaj, and then I guess he gave him sannyas and he became a follower of Sridhar Maharaj, abandoning Srila Prabhupada.
And then he left ISKCON and started his own ashram independently.
Yes. Yeah.
Tripurari did.
Yes. Did you know him personally, Narayan Prabhu?
Oh, of course. He was a major Sankirtan book distributor in the earlier days in the 73, 74, 75.
Acha. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so, but I always felt, you know, I told you I was always in charge of the kirtans at the temple during that time. And people went into great ecstasy.
Ecstasy.
You
You mean
know, chanting. Yeah.
ecstasy or the drug?
We chanted with Prabhupada's melodies.
Huh.
We chanted using Prabhupada's Mridanga beat, Prabhupada's step dancing, and Prabhupada kartals. So people went into ecstasy. Of course, 500 people in the temple room would go into extreme ecstasy. Well, one time, Tripurari was leading it, and that was the last time I ever let him lead, because he started singing Ramakrishna, 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 Ramakrishna. You know, so I mean, I said, this guy's loose. He may sell a lot of books, but he's loose in the head.
Okay. That's the history on him.
So yeah, so that's Tripurari for you. So now that he's a guru and he just has disciples, he's probably still loose in the head, but they're too surrendered to notice.
Yeah. Okay. This unauthorized acharya, I'm reading right here. This unauthorized acharya later on committed suicide when he realized that he was exposed as a complete homosexual fraud. So Bhavananda is guilty of this too, but he didn't commit suicide.
No, he was brought back into ISKCON in 1976
Yeah.
In good standing.
in good standing.
Wow.
And I published why, right? It's in this paper here, I think.
Maybe
Is it this paper? Where I think it's in this paper, because it's all in Rupa Manjari's writing style.
Jai.
She claims
Okay.
that we wrote it together, but she keeps on saying Narayan, not I, you know.
Okay, so let's continue reading. So now Sridhar Maharaj had somehow been given, quote unquote, the opportunity to destroy 2 transcendental missions in his one lifetime, considering that he was a Jnani who would rather be reading books than be a guru. This was no small feat. Huh, interesting. So, I mean, why would he want to destroy a spiritual movement? It just like sounds like, you know, you're trying to make a bomb and it explodes on you.
No. We are saying that he tried to destroy 2 movements, which he essentially did by making the ISKCON devotee, ISKCON Ritviks into regular gurus, and making Ananta Sesha the successor acharya. He didn't mean to do that. He meant to do something wonderful.
Oh, he meant to do something
It
wonderful.
shows you his absolute lack of spiritual intelligence as to how he didn't do something wonderful.
Right.
It wasn't wickedness on his part. It was
okay.
spiritual blindness on his part.
Okay. That's the next move by the Ritvik, soon to be successor Acharya gurus, was to hold the Mayapur meeting after the meeting with Sridhar Maharaj and announce themselves as successor gurus to Srila Prabhupada, that they were each individually on the same level as Srila Prabhupada, and that Sridhar Maharaj had instructed them to arrange for individual vyasasans for them in each of the ISKCON temples. That means 11 vyasasans besides Srila Prabhupada's vyasasan in each temple. Wow. Now, Prabhu, I heard you built some of his vyasasans.
Oh, for them?
For them, right?
Well, I made 1 or maybe 2. The reason I made one for Hamsadura, but the reason I did was I knew these guys were so completely inflated that I wanted to make it small of Vyasa-san as I could get away with. Otherwise, they would get someone else to make one bigger than Prabhupada's
I
Vyasa-san.
see, I see. Uh-huh. Right,
Making the best use of a bad bargain, I should say.
right, right. But it must have been horrific for your god brothers to see this 11 Vyasa sons. I mean, 11 Vyasa sons take a lot of room. I mean, it's like,
They never produced that many.
oh, they never did, huh?
No, they started to try in Vrindavan, and it became so absurd. It looked like a used furniture store. So they settled down to something else, which was one Vyasa-san for the visiting guru, and they had a few. There was Bhaktisiddhanta Das, who was doing valuable sculpture work.
Yes, yes. He's written that book. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He and some others took those Vyasa-sons up to the roof of the Krishna Balaram temple and threw them off into the courtyard where they shattered.
Oh, wow. Is he still alive? This Bhaktisiddhanta?
Quite possibly. I don't think he might be older than me, but he might not be also.
Okay.
He had recurring malaria.
Oh. At least he threw the Vyasa sons out the window.
Off the roof.
Off the roof. Wow, okay,
So
let's
you
go.
can see there was quite a lot of turmoil going on at that time.
Right, right. And
Prabhu's, I think I'm gonna go to sleep now.
all right,
No, you got to finish. Just stay up a little bit longer. I'd like Rupa Mandari to read the next section.
let's end it and let's start one maybe tomorrow or something, huh?
Well, we can't go further.
It's we started at about I don't know, 8 o'clock. It's 9.
Yeah. Well, at least let Rupa Mandari read the rest of the paper. Okay.
Okay.
That's a lot to read. Narayan, that's a lot to read. I think we should continue
What
it
page
on.
are we on?
Let's end it, Narayan Prabhu. Let's end it and let's start. We'll start again Wednesday.
Shall we?
Yeah, because so let's continue the discussion. Rupa Manjari Prabhu can end it here, but we won't continue any further. We'll have her come back and then we'll start the discussion next time, next pages from the document. So
Okay.
all right.
Good night, Rupa.
All right. Good
Hare
night.
Krishna. Thank you very much.
everybody.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Right. Okay. So that was very powerful stuff that we were discussing. I don't think anyone has this type of insight or this type of understanding.
Well, it's too bad that we didn't get to keep that website because it may not have been very popular back then, but I think it would be very popular today.
Right.
But who knows? Hey, Ramachandra, is it possible you could put out feelers to see if people have downloaded from that website the way this guy probably did?
Oh, the best thing to do is, I think, contact our well-wishers or from that time. I'm sure they saved a lot of documents. I was not there at that time, so I don't know who these people are.
Okay. But anybody that's a Ritvik may have downloaded stuff.
Yeah, so anyone who's watching this, if they have any documents relating to that website, what was the website called again? The Real ISKCON? The Real
It's called ISKCON-DOM, ISKCON-DOM.com.
Okay. So if they have any documents from that website, we'd love to see it and discuss it and post it on our WhatsApp group, on our Facebook. And
We'll reassemble it like pottery from an ancient archaeological site.
Right. Okay, devotees,
All right.
thank you very much. Hare Krishna. We'll continue
Hare
our
Krishna.
session
Jai,
on
all glories to Prabhupada.
Jai,
Hare Bol.
all glory.